This is an analysis of Matthew Arnold's poems, Memorial Verses and Dover Beach. Analysis of Memorial Verses. Memorial Verses is an elegy praising William Wordsworth and lamenting his death that had occurred the year and month this poem was written. It praises Wordsworth's ability to sympathize with nature and to evoke feeling through his poetry. Arnold compares Wordsworth to two other great Romantic poets, who were Arnold's favorites, Byron and Goethe, who had also already died, with Byron being buried in Greece and Goethe in Weimar. This poem is a celebration of Romantic poetry, including its individuality, prophetic confidence, and intimacy. At the same time, it is a statement about how the Romantic age has passed and a profound expression of anxiety about what the future holds, both for poetry and the Victorians in general. Matthew Arnold was also a literary critic, in addition to being a poet. Thus, he was widely read in Romantic poetry. He knew the merits and demerits of every major poet of the Romantic age, and this is exactly what he expresses in Memorial Verses. He explains that Byron's passion came from his emotional involvement with the ideals of the French Revolution. Though he was born and brought up in a Catholic family, his interests were more towards the political life of Europe and the emerging trend of democracy. More than any other Romantic poet, the content of his best poetry was political in nature. Byron's revolutionary thoughts went against the grain of Christian faith, and this created the dilemma of which Arnold speaks in the second stanza of Memorial Verses. Goethe could see into the deepest human emotions and figure out, like a physician, how to deal with the problems of his age. This is what he does in his most famous works, Faust and The Sorrows of Young Werther. Arnold praises Goethe's ability to diagnose the contemporary human condition. According to Arnold, the poetic contributions of Wordsworth are greater than those of Byron and Goethe. He says that Wordsworth does not merely diagnose, like Goethe, and does not agitate like Byron either. Instead, he gives a calm and soothing message to the masses of humanity about the importance of nature. Arnold asks in his poem, "Time may restore us in his course, Goethe's sage mind and Byron's force, but where will Europe's latter hour again find Wordsworth's healing power? Others will teach us how to dare, and against fear our beasts to steel. Others will strengthen us to bear. But who, who will make us feel?" Thus Arnold is lamenting the loss of William Wordsworth, the great Romantic poet, and the death of the Romantic age, which is known to emphasize the importance of emotion and nature's restorative power, which is especially important in the industrialized Victorian era. Since Arnold especially admires Wordsworth, it is perhaps why he gives the least space in the Memorial Verses to Byron, Goethe a little more, and Wordsworth the most space of all. Analysis of Dover Beach. Dover Beach, Matthew Arnold's best-known poem written in 1851, was inspired by two visits he and his new wife Frances made to the south coast of England, where the white cliffs of Dover stand, just 22 miles from the coast of France. Being written at a time when religion was under tremendous pressure from the sciences and evolutionary theory, with the work of Charles Darwin and his Origin of Species, and during a time when technology was advancing exponentially during the Industrial Revolution, Matthew Arnold feared the death of Christianity and faith, leaving the Victorians without a means to cope with human misery. The poem is broken into 4 stanzas of varying length and with no standard form. In the first stanza, the speaker describes to his lover the beautiful cliffs of Dover, the calm and tranquil bay shining in the moonlight, and the lights seen in France, which go out as they watch, symbolizing hope going out. Then he describes the sea, which represents faith in the poem, as receding from the shore with a grating roar of pebbles, which the waves draw back, and with tremendous cadence slow, and bring the eternal notes of sadness in. Thus the first stanza describes the beautiful seascape as receding from them and bringing a mood of sadness brought in with the uncomfortable grating roar of the sea, which shifts the tone of the poem. If the sea represents faith, then faith is falling away from the speaker and his lover, as well as from all Victorians of his day. In the second stanza, which is very short, Arnold compares the sad feeling that the receding tide makes the speaker feel to the same feeling Sophocles, the famous Greek poet of tragedy, felt when he wrote his great tragedies, and says that it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. In the third stanza, he explains how the sea of faith was once at the full, meaning faith was once strong, but today faith is dying. The speaker then says that during the present day, I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar. The speaker is left feeling naked in the dark, unhappy world as his faith dies. In the last stanza, also a long stanza, the speaker addresses his love directly, encouraging her to let them be true to one another, because he says to her that the world seems like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, but actually hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for the pain. He ends the poem with the lines, and we are here as on the darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. In other words, even though the couple's seascape view is beautiful, it reminds the speaker how alone they are in a world without faith, in which struggle exists and people have no clear way to comfort themselves. Arnold sees Victorian humanity as faithless and alone, facing their struggles like ignorant armies which clash by night, or people who face the challenges of human suffering with no clear idea of how to cope with their misery.